Good evening, welcome to GCSE Maths Revision at Wigan and Lee College. Today is the 2nd of May 2018. Today's 2nd of May 2018 and we will be looking at solving equations. Now, what we're going to do is just have a look, first of all, at what will be important information that we'll need to know before we start solving. Now, inverse operations can't fit it there. So inverse operations are it's the opposites. So the best way to solve an equation is by using inverses. Simply what I mean is you're just undoing what the equation is actually doing. I will give a few examples and it will make much more sense. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. The opposite of multiplication is division, and they're the inverses of each other. So maybe it's worth taking a note of this. So the opposite of add is subtract. The opposite of subtract is add. The opposite of times is divide, and vice versa. The opposite of divide is times. So if you just want to make a note of that before we move on to solving equations. So these are the inverse operations. Okay, now what I actually mean by the opposite of add being subtract is, let's have a look. So where we've got 3 plus 2, that's 5. Now if we were to do the opposite of this sum, just to work backwards and see if it was right, we would do 5 minus 2, which gives us 3. So it's the same set of numbers, we're just doing the opposites to work out or to double check that it's correct. So the opposite of addition will always be subtraction, and likewise it will be the same with multiplication and division. So let's just have a look. So 3 times 2 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Okay, now moving on, just another point I'd like to point out before we do move ahead. There's times when you can have a number and a letter next to each other. So it might be 4a, we might have 6x. Now it's important to understand what that symbol actually means. Now where there's no symbol, or where you've got a letter and a number next to each other, that always means times. So this is the same as 4 times or multiplied by a. 6x is the same as 6 times by x. Okay, what we're going to do is just move on to solving one-step equations. I'm going to put on a very simple example. It's probably something that you can already do off the top of your head. So if we have x plus 5 equals 17, when we're solving an equation, we want to know what the unknown is. So in this, it's x. It's a variable. We want to know what x is. We've got the other numbers. We're going to use them to solve what we don't know, and in this case, it's x. Now, the question's saying something plus 5 is 17. Some of you might be able to work that out straight away and say, oh, right. Something add 5, 22 plus, 12 plus 5 is 17. But it's not always so straightforward, and we need to know how to use algebra to solve it, because you can't always do it in your head, and today that's what we're going to work towards. We're going to treat, how I like to look at it is the equal sign. I always look at it like a set of scales. So this little triangle here is my scales. Not that it's a very good drawing. But with a set of scales, it's important in algebra that we're going to keep it balanced. So whatever you do to one side, you're going to do to the other side as well. So that's what we're going to work on today. Now, plus 5, like we said, the opposite of plus 5 is minus 5. So to get x on its own, we need to get rid of the 5. And remember, we need to keep it balanced, so whatever we do to one side, we're going to do to the other. Now, plus 5 minus 5 cancels out, we've got nothing. And 17 minus 5 leaves us with 12. Bring down the x, so the answer is x equals 12. So let's have a look at another example. Okay, x minus 3 equals 8. Again, like I've just said, we're going to look at the equals like a set of scales where it's important to keep it balanced. And if you don't, we're doing something wrong. Let's have a look at this. Now, we've got something, take away 3 is 8. Now, some of you, like I said, will do it at the top of your head and think, right, 11 take away 3 gives me 8. But we're going to work in a systematic way to build up our skills to be able to solve more complex or difficult algebraic equations. So we're going to use the inverse method. Now, the inverse of minus 3, or the inverse of minus, is plus. So we're going to plus 3 to cancel that out, but to keep the scales balanced, you need to make sure you plus 3 on the other side as well. So minus 3 plus 3 cancels out to nothing, and 8 take away 3 is 5. So we're left with, oh sorry, it's me, we can all make errors. Sorry, 8 plus 3 is 11. And then we bring down the x, so x equals 11. You can put it back or substitute it back into the original equation to check that you're right. Now 11 minus 3 equals 8, so you know you're doing this right. Okay, let's have a look at another equation. We've got 5x equals 30. Okay, and our equals is our little set of scales that we need to keep balanced. So we need to remember whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. Okay, now we did discuss just a little bit earlier that a letter and a number next to each other means times. So it's 5 times x. Now the inverse of times, as we discussed, was divide. So what we need to do is divide both sides by 5 to get x on its own. Now 5 divided by 5 leaves you with 1, which is just x. 30 divided by 5 is 6. Now we can put the 6 back into the equation to check that this actually works. Ooh. Okay, so I'm just going to put this back into the equation to check it works. So 5 times x, which is 5 times 6, equals 30. And yeah, that is right. We are correct. Okay, so we're going to now move on to another example. So x divided by 4 is 3. Okay, again, use the same method. The equals is our set of scales that we need to keep balanced, so whatever we do to one side we will do to the other. Now we've got x divided by 4 equals 3. Now the opposite of divide, or the inverse of that, is times. So what we need to do to both sides is multiply by 4. Okay, so x divided by 4, when you times by 4 you're left with x. Now 3 times 4 is 12, so we know that x is 12. Now let's put it back into the equation and see if we're right. So we've got 12 divided by 4 is 3, and that is correct, and you can check that on your calculators as well. Now just as a point to just to really summarise what we've just done. So it's inverse operations. The opposite of addition is subtraction, and the opposite of multiplication is division, and vice versa. We've also mentioned when you've got a letter and a number next to each other, there's no symbol, it's times, you always need to add a multiplication in between the letter and the number. You've always got to remember when we're solving an equation, it's like a little game where you're trying to get x on its own. When you solve an equation, you need to have one value. So x equals, it could be y equals or z equals. Whatever the unknown is, you need to have an answer for that, and it's a single answer that you will have. Now, what I'm going to do is, we've just looked at examples where it's just a single step equation, where we're doing the opposite, where if it's add, you're taking away, when it's take away, we're adding, and so on. I want to move on a little bit and have a look where we've got variables on both sides and how we would actually solve that. So I'm just going to put down a question. Okay, so we've got 13x plus 1 is 11x plus 9. Again, we're going to look and we're going to solve this in the same way that we've just done. We're going to look at that equal sign as if it's a balance, and whatever we do to one side we're going to do to the other. Now what's different about this is that we've got variables on both sides. What you need to do is try and get the x's on one side and the numbers on the other side using the same method. How I always look at it is, I think, right, which is the bigger number? Well, 13x is bigger than 11x. So leave the 13x where it is and let's work with that 11x to cancel that out first. The way you'll get rid of the 11x, again, is we can minus, because it's a positive, we can take it away. We're going to take that away from both sides. So 13x minus 11x leaves us with 2x. Got the plus 1. And the 11x minus 11x just cancels that out. So we've just got the plus 9. So we're now left with 2x plus 1 is, well, just 9. So again, now what we've got is numbers on both sides, so we need to get the numbers on one side. So it's the plus 1, we're going to minus 1, and we need to do that off both sides to keep it balanced. Now, plus 1, minus 1, cancels out, so there's nothing. And 9, take away 1, leaves us with 8. So now we've got 2x equals 8. Now remember when we said 2x just means 2 times x. So to get x on its own, we need to divide both sides by 2. 2x, well, 2 divided by 2 leaves you with just 1, which is x, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So the answer that we're left with is x equals 4. I will give you another example and then I will let you have a go at this. So we'll just go through another example. Okay, so we've got 5t minus 4 equals 3t plus 6. So let's have a look at now what we need to do. Okay, so as we've discussed, we've got numbers on both sides, well, and letters, so we've got variables and numbers, so we've got 5t and 3t. Because 5t is bigger, I'm going to leave that where it is, and I'm going to try and get rid of the 3t. It's a positive 3t, so the inverse of that would be to minus 3t. And we do that from both sides to keep it balanced. Let's have a look at working that out. 5t take 3t leaves us with 2t. So we've got 2t minus 4 equals 3t minus 3t. We've got nothing. It cancels it out. And then you've got 6. So now we're left with 2t minus 4 equals 6. So now we're going to look at the number. we've got minus 4, and we need to get the numbers all on one side, which is the right hand side for this question. The opposite of minus 4 is plus 4, and we're going to do that on both sides to keep it balanced. Minus 4 plus 4 cancels out, so we have nothing there. And 6 plus 4 gives us 10. So we've got 2t equals 10. We've not really finished it yet. We don't want 2t, we want t on its own. So you've got to remember to do that last step as well. Now, 2t is 2 times t. And the opposite of times is divide. I've got some saying the answer's 1. The answer's not actually 1, and we'll get to that in just a minute. The opposite of 2 times is divide by 2, which we will do on both sides. 2 divided by 2 leaves us with just t, and 10 divided by 2 leaves us with 5. So the answer to that would be t equals 5. What I am going to do is give some of you a chance. I'm going to put 2 examples up, and I want you to have a go at them. I will give you about 3 minutes just to run through it, and then we'll go through the answers together. So question 1, 4y plus 3 equals 2y plus 8, and question 2, you can have 5y plus 1 equals 3y plus 13. Good luck with that, guys. Just remember the steps involved and have a go at that. Okay, let's have a look at just solving these. So the first question that you had, it was 4y plus 3 equals 2y plus 8. Let's just go through this step by step and see what it is that you should have done with this. Okay, first of all, we've got 2 variables. We've got the 4y and the 2y. So we're going to get rid of the minus 2y, and we do that on both sides. Now, 4y, take 2y, leaves us with 2y. Then you've got your plus 3 equals. Now 2y minus 2y cancels out, so you're left with just the 8, and that's a plus 8, so we just put down 8. So now I've got 2y plus 3 equals 8. Now we're going to have to get rid of the 3, so that we've got the letter on one side and the numbers on the other. So the opposite of plus 3 is minus 3, and we do that on both sides to keep the equation balanced. Plus 3 minus 3 cancels out, and 8 take away 3 leaves us with 5. So now we've got 2y equals 5, and the last stage is, because it's 2y, which is 2 times y equals 5, we need to divide both sides by 2, and that will leave us with y equals 2.5. Just want to have a look at your answers. Well done if that's right, and if it's not, it doesn't matter, keep on trying. have a look at the steps and just make a note or take a screenshot to see where you've gone wrong. Okay, and let's just go through the second example as well. Well, the second question, so you had 5y plus 1 equals 3y plus 13. Okay, so again, we've got 5y and 3y. We're going to minus 3y from both sides. 5y minus 3y leaves us with 2y. And we've got plus 1 equals 3y minus 3y cancels itself out. And then you're left with plus 13. So I'm just going to put down 13. Next, we're going to minus 1 from both sides to get rid of the minus 1. Plus 1 minus 1 leaves you with nothing. And 13 take away 1 is 12. So we've now got 2y equals 12. 2y is 2 times y, and we want y on its own. So we're going to divide both sides by 2 to get our final answer. 2 divided by 2 leaves you with 1, which is y. And 12 divided by 2 is 6. So we're left with y equals 6. Again, just check that through the steps that are involved, and if you've got that right, well done. If not, you know what, just keep your chin up, keep trying, take a screenshot and just follow it through. Okay, one final thing I do want to cover this evening as well is when you've got what you covered yesterday with one of my colleagues was expanding brackets. Now, sometimes in the exam the question might be that you need to expand the brackets before you solve the equation. So a little bit of a recap on that and just a quick few practice questions. Let's have a look. So if we have a question which is 2 open brackets y plus 2 equals 8, and you need to solve this. Regarding bid maths, in maths there's always the order of operation that you need to follow. We call it bid maths, which just stands for brackets, indices, divide, multiply, add and subtract. All that means is that you've got to complete your brackets first, then your indices, then any division, multiplication, addition and subtraction in that order. Now, with brackets, because we need to do that first, what you need to do is expand the brackets. And to expand these brackets, you use the number on the outside and you multiply it by everything on the inside. So let's have a go at this. 2 times y, 2y, 2 times 2 is 4, and it's a positive, so it's plus 4, and we've got equals 8. And now you would just solve this using the same method that we've discussed. So 2y plus 4 equals 8. What we're going to do is minus 4 from both sides. Plus 4 minus 4 cancels out. So we're left with 2y equals 8, take away 4, which is 8. And now to get y on its own, we do the opposite of 2 times y, which is divide by 2. And we need to make sure we divide by 2 on both sides. 4 divided by 2 leaves us with 2, and 2 divided by 2 leaves you with 1, which is just y. So the answer would be y equals 2. So again, just remember, it's not much different. If there's brackets involved and you need to solve an equation, expand your brackets first and just solve the equation in the way that you usually would do, using the inverse operations. Let's have a look at another question. Now we've got 3a plus 2 equals 12. Again, what we need to do first is expand the brackets before we solve. So 3 times a and 3 times 2. 3 times a will leave us with 3a, and 3 times 2 is 6, and it's positive, and that equals 12. Now, I know I have been saying that we treat the equals like a set of balances, and whatever you do to one side you do to the other, but some of you may notice that, like I've said, we do the inverse operation on the other side, and on one side we're just cancelling out the number we have. Like here, the plus 6 becomes a minus 6 on the other side. So there is a quick way of doing it. You don't need to write it on both sides if you don't want to. But if that works well for you, use that method. All I mean is, on the left, we've got it as plus 6. So what I need to do on the right is to get rid of that is minus 6. And I'm going to rewrite what I've got. So I've got 3a equals 6, because 12 takes 6 is 6. And what we've really done is done the opposite of the plus 6. To get rid of it, you do the opposite on the other side. And now what we need to do is divide by 3, because 3a is 3 times a. The opposite of times is divide. Again, we're left with 6 divided by 3 is 2. And you could have actually done what we did on the other side. So to get rid of the times 3, we divide by 3 on the other side. So you're left with a equals 2. Let's have a go at another question, and then I will give you some examples to have a go at. We've got 4x minus 4 equals 40. So we're going to expand the brackets. So 4 times x, 4 times minus 4. And again, expand just means use the number on the outside and multiply it by everything on the inside. So now we have 4x, because 4 times x is 4x. 4 times minus 4. You need to remember your rules for your negative numbers. Now, a positive times a negative will always give you a negative answer. So 4 times 4 is 16, and it will be minus 16 equals 40. And just a bit of a recap, and we will cover this again. You add the same signs and we subtract them if they're different. So if it's a plus and a minus, you always minus. And if it's a minus and a minus, or a plus and a plus, you always add. Now let's solve this. So we've got the minus 16. Well, to get rid of the minus 16, we do the opposite on the other side. We're going to turn it to add 16, or plus 16. So now we've got 4x equals 40 plus 16, which is 56. And the opposite of 4x, which is 4 times x, is divide by 4. So we can just divide the other side by 4. So we're left with x equals 56 divided by 4, which is 14. Okay, now I'm just going to give you some examples, and I want you to have a go at them, and I will give you the answers to make sure you've got that right. So number 1. If you'd just like to have a go at these, please, and then we can go through the answers. Okay, let's just talk through the answers. And for the first question, which was 5, we've got c minus 3 is 35. We are going to expand the brackets. So 5 times c will give us 5c. 5 times minus 3 will be minus 15 because it's a plus times a minus, which leaves you with a minus, and we've got equals 35. To get rid of the minus 15, because we want the letters on its own, we're going to plus 15 on the other side. So we are now left with 5c equals 35 plus 15, which is 50. 5c is 5 times c, and to get c on its own we are going to divide by 5 on the other side, which will leave us with c equals 50 divided by 5, and c is 10. If you just like to check that through, take a picture so you can make sure that you've got all the steps right, and if you haven't, it'll just be a base to work on. And the next question was 7, we've got 3 plus a in brackets equals 49. Now, because brackets are involved, the first thing you're doing is you're expanding the brackets, multiplying everything on the outside by everything on the inside. So we're left with 7 times 3, which is 21, plus 7 times a, which is 7a, and that equals 49. Right, here again, we want to get the numbers on one side and the letters on another. It's rearranged a little bit, but we're still going to do the same thing. So we're going to get rid of the 21. It's a positive, so we're going to minus 21 on the other side, and that will leave us with 7a equals 49 minus 21, leaves us with 28. And because 7a is the same as 7 times a, we are going to divide the other side by 7. So we are left with a equals 28 divided by 7, and that is 4. So the answer is a equals 4. I just want to say a big thank you for visiting. Keep on visiting. These revision sessions are on at 8 o'clock on Tuesday, Wednesdays and Thursdays up until the exams. If you do have any questions, come in and ask us in college. We're more than happy to help. Send us an email, ask questions on here, and we will keep on visiting topics that we think that you need. You're more than welcome to come in and ask us or tell us what to cover on one of the sessions. But thank you, and I hope your understanding of solving equations has improved. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Thank you.